One morning at home, Emma notices a cat struggling in the fountain outside. Instead of helping, she pulls the curtains shut and gets ready for school. She carefully notes the date on her calendar and straightens the trophies in her room, showing her habit of keeping everything tidy and her pride in her achievements. Over breakfast with her widowed father, David, she mentions that her school will soon award a medal for the most outstanding student, and she fully intends to earn it. She also casually asks if David plans to start dating again, though she insists she doesn't really care. Just then, Aunt Angela drops by with news that she has found a new nanny for Emma. Emma resists, saying she doesn't want another nanny after the last one passed away. She would rather Angela look after her. But Angela reminds her she already has work commitments. Emma then remarks about the drowned cat, which forces David to go outside and deal with the animal's body. Later at school, a wasp flies into the classroom and sends the children into a panic. Emma remains calm, traps the insect with a cup, and sets it free through the window. Milo, impressed, asks how she knew to do that. She explains that there's a wasp nest in her backyard and that her father taught her wasps only sting when threatened. Meanwhile, David interviews a young woman named Chloe for the nanny position and decides to hire her. She is scheduled to begin the following week. That day Emma overhears Milo admiring another student's watch. When the girl steps outside to play, Emma deliberately causes her to stumble. She quickly helps her up to appear caring in front of the teacher, while secretly slipping the watch into her own pocket. That evening, she stands in front of the mirror rehearsing smiles and gestures to make herself seem innocent and charming. The next morning she carefully dresses in her best clothes and asks her father to help her look perfect. At school, the ceremony takes place, and the merit medal is awarded to Milo. Emma claps politely with the others, though her restless tapping foot betrays her irritation. At the party afterward, Emma complains bitterly to her father, insisting she deserved the medal and criticizing Milo's shortcomings. David reprimands her, and she quickly changes her tone, pretending to be happy for her friend. When the adults gather together, Emma convinces Milo to follow her into the forest. They climb to a cliff overlooking the ocean, and Milo grows uneasy at her strange behavior. Moments later, Emma returns to the gathering and urges David to leave. When Milo's parents notice their son missing, Emma claims she hasn't seen him. Soon after, children scream when they spot Milo's lifeless body on the shore. His parents rush to resuscitate him, but it's already too late. That evening, David confides in Angela, expressing concern over how the tragedy will affect Emma, unaware that she is eavesdropping nearby. The next morning, David gently asks Emma how she feels about Milo's death, but she replies coldly that there's nothing to discuss. Chloe then arrives for her first day, and David gives her a tour before heading out. Later, Chloe sneaks into the bathroom, finds some medication, and pockets a few pills. She and Emma watch a movie together, but Chloe dismisses the story as silly, which annoys Emma. When Chloe asks about Milo's death, Emma bluntly states that it doesn't matter whether she feels sad, he's gone regardless. Chloe also casually asks whether David has a girlfriend. Emma explains he dated someone once but ended things because she didn't like her. She then adds that Chloe saw her stealing, and Chloe uses this knowledge to blackmail her. Emma, however, turns it to her advantage, demanding late bedtimes, ice cream, and cookies, with Chloe catering to her whims. Not long after, Milo's funeral is held at the school. Everyone weeps except Emma. David speaks with Milo's mother, who reveals that the medal is missing and asks if he has any photos from the event. Back at home, David starts tidying Emma's room and almost discovers the medal hidden beneath her bed, but Emma distracts him at the last second. Later, David goes through the photographs from the ceremony and notices that Emma's eyes are always fixed on the medal. The following day, Mrs. Ellis arrives at his home with a lawyer. They explain that witnesses saw Emma heading into the forest with Milo, and they want to know if she noticed anything unusual. Since Milo couldn't swim, it didn't make sense that he would climb all the way to the cliff by the water. From a distance, Chloe spots Emma secretly listening to the conversation and realizes she's responsible. When the lawyer suggests that Emma might have caused Milo's death, Emma deliberately smashes a cookie jar in the kitchen, injuring herself and creating a distraction. Ellis and the lawyer decide to leave, and David tends to Emma's cut. He gently asks if she knows anything about Milo, but she insists she doesn't and lashes out, calling Ellis a liar who always disliked her. To soften her father, she pretends to be devastated about Milo's death. Later that night, David takes a shower. When he steps back into his room, he finds Chloe waiting, claiming she only wanted to ask him something. The next morning, Chloe visits him in his workshop. David asks for her thoughts on Emma's behavior, and Chloe pretends she thinks the girl is wonderful, though she quickly shifts the conversation to David's personal life. That afternoon, Chloe takes Emma on a walk and mentions that David has been asking a lot of questions about her because he's worried. She adds that she's been protecting Emma but warns that suspicion is growing. They pause when they notice Ellis stopping by Milo's house. Chloe mocks Emma, telling her she'd better come up with a convincing story because the police are closing in. Once back home, Emma reminds Chloe that she knows about the pills she stole, so if Chloe exposes her, she'll do the same in return. Chloe isn't intimidated and instead describes, in unsettling detail, how murderers are executed in the electric chair. Not long after, Chloe looks around for Emma but can't find her anywhere. While searching Emma's room, she uncovers the metal hidden beneath the bed. At the same time, Ellis drives away from Milo's house and suddenly screams when a wasp buzzes inside her car. She panics and nearly crashes, but manages to stop just in time. After opening the window to shoo the insect out, she keeps driving, not noticing the nest clinging to the back of her seat. That evening, David returns from work. He doesn't see that the metal has been placed on the lamp in his bedroom. When Emma comes in to greet him, she spots it immediately and snatches it. David notices her trying to sneak away with something concealed in her hands and forces her to reveal it. Chloe overhears and steps in, explaining that she had discovered the metal under Emma's bed while cleaning. Emma quickly denies it, insisting she doesn't know how it got there, but David presses her until she admits part of the truth. She explains that she and Milo were playing in the woods, and when she won their game, Milo let her wear the medal. She claims she doesn't know what happened to him afterward. David reprimands her harshly for hiding it, reminding her that Milo's mother wanted to place it in his grave, which Emma dismisses as a foolish idea. Afterward, David drives away and calls Angela, asking her to recommend a psychiatrist for Emma. On the road, he passes a car accident surrounded by police and paramedics, but he doesn't stop to see who the victim is. That night, David has a disturbing dream about his late wife during her pregnancy. In the dream, Ellis appears dressed as a doctor and warns them that something is wrong with their child. The next morning, he imagines finding Chloe's lifeless body floating in the fountain, with Emma insisting it was Milo, who suddenly appears as a corpse come back to life. But this too is only part of the nightmare. Over breakfast, Emma confronts Chloe for exposing the truth about the medal, and Chloe snaps back by calling her a little psycho. Later, David drives Emma to Milo's house, forcing her to return the medal while repeating the same explanation she'd given him before. Milo's grieving mother accepts it but looks uncertain, explaining she's overwhelmed because she has just learned that Ellis was killed in a car accident, triggered by a wasp nest inside her vehicle. Emma pretends to be devastated, insisting Ellis was her favorite teacher, and persuades her father to take her home. That night, he researches child behavioral disorders and begins to suspect that Emma might be a sociopath. The next morning, he tells Emma she will be seeing a doctor, but fails to notice the bloodstains on her hand. At the appointment, David first describes Emma's cold reactions and lack of empathy. The doctor then speaks privately with Emma, who insists nothing is wrong with her. When Milo's name comes up, she claims she spent 2 days crying for him. Their conversation eventually leads to laughter, shocking David. The doctor reassures him that Emma is fine and sends them both home. When they arrive, they find Chloe sunbathing in revealing clothes. Later, Chloe checks in on Emma and mocks her for not having any friends, then admits she's trying to pursue a relationship with David. Emma warns her to stay away, but Chloe responds smugly that she isn't afraid of her. That night, David prepares for a date, and before he leaves, Emma begs him never to bring a stepmother into her life. While Chloe watches television, the lights begin flickering. She hears noises and follows them into the workshop. Suddenly the door slams shut behind her, locking her inside. She panics and tries the other door, but it seals too, triggering a trap that sets the workshop on fire. Emma watches through the window as Chloe pounds on the glass in desperation. When Chloe injures herself trying to break it, the flames spread across her body. Emma watches the scene unfold with eerie satisfaction. Moments later, David returns home to flashing lights, fire trucks, and police officers. They inform him that Chloe has perished in the blaze and the workshop has been completely destroyed. Horrified, David vomits outside. He then clutches Emma tightly, while she calmly tells the authorities that Chloe often smoked inside the workshop. After the officers leave, David demands to know what really happened at the cliff. Emma admits she took Milo's medal and he grew furious, so she pushed him to get him away. She claims the fall was an accident and ignored him when he screamed that he couldn't swim. David then presses her about her first nanny. Emma explains bluntly that the woman had grabbed her arm, so she kicked her, causing her to tumble down the stairs. With chilling detachment, Emma argues that the nanny was the adult, and it was her responsibility to protect herself. David explodes in rage, accusing Emma of being responsible for Chloe's death and Ellis's as well. Emma shouts back, saying she never wanted a stepmother and complaining that David did nothing about Chloe's theft. Shaken, David tries to call the doctor for help, only to discover she is away on vacation. The following morning, the sheriff phones David, explaining he needs to question both him and Emma. David replies that Emma is unwell and that he's swamped with work, so they agree to postpone the meeting until Monday. Afterward, he wakes Emma and tells her to pack, because they're leaving. Following a long drive, they arrive at the family's lake house, a place David has never liked. The caretaker, Brian, greets them briefly before returning to his nearby cabin. That evening, David calls Angela to let her know where they are. While in the bedroom, he remembers there's a gun stored inside the nightstand. Later, the sheriff calls back, informing him that the fire in the workshop had been deliberate, and that lab tests will soon reveal who was responsible. After hanging up, David goes into the bathroom, where he notices movement behind the shower curtain. Suddenly, a scorched hand reaches out and grabs him, revealing Chloe's charred corpse in the tub. He screams, only to wake and realize it was another nightmare. The next day, David ignores repeated calls from the sheriff. Emma takes a walk in the woods. That night, he sits awake, staring at the gun, torn about what he should do. After he finally drifts off, Emma kisses him on the cheek and quietly opens every gas valve in the house before walking to the lake. The strong odor jolts David awake, and he races downstairs, shutting off all the valves just in time. Through the window, he spots Emma near the water and goes to confront her. She calmly explains that she wants to live with Aunt Angela. Taking her by the hand, David leads her back inside. Later, he gazes at a photo of his late wife, then crushes sedatives into a cup of hot chocolate for Emma. When she asks for whipped cream, he leaves both mugs on the table to fetch it. They drink together, and soon Emma drifts off to sleep. David calls Angela and confesses everything Emma has done, but she doesn't believe him. He tells her he's had to make a very difficult decision. In the middle of the night, Emma awakens, slips into David's room, places the gun in his hand, and pulls the trigger, but the bullet only rips through his pillow. David jerks awake, but his limbs feel heavy. He realizes she swapped the cups, and he's the one who drank the sedatives. He wrestles the gun away from her, but Emma grabs his phone instead. As he struggles, she dials 911, screaming into the receiver that her father is trying to kill her. She bolts into the bathroom and locks the door. David kicks it down and raises the gun, but Brian appears behind him. Emma cries for help again. With police sirens echoing outside, David steels himself to shoot, but Brian fires first. David gasps one last breath before collapsing, dead. Minutes later, officers storm in, and Brian tells them that David tried to murder Emma. Angela soon arrives, declaring that David had been unwell. She embraces Emma, who smiles with quiet triumph. And that's the end of the movie.